Hello everyone. So it's the 27th of December, and I thought it was time for me to do my non-fiction favorites of this year. There is a few days left of the year, but I don't think I'm going to read any new non-fiction, so I think it's time for me to start wrapping up the year and let you know what my favorite non-fictions were of the year. What I mean by my favorite books of 2020 is books that I have read in 2020 for the first time. That doesn't mean that they have been necessarily published in 2020, it's just I read them in 2020. And also, they are not in any particular order. I think it's probably the order I read them more than anything else. So yeah, but the first book I want to talk about is the Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells. And this book is basically... Wow, the wind is really strong. I'm sorry if you can hear it. But yeah, so this book is about climate change, the climate crisis, and it basically has, I think it was like 9 or 10 chapters, and each chapters focuses on one certain topic, on how climate change is going to affect the economy, for example, or health, or the natural environment. And it focuses on that thing, and it goes what would happen if we would get 1 degree warmer or 2 degrees warmer or 3 or 4, etc. for each topic. So it covers a lot in quite small space, and it's structured in a way that you can see how really climate change will affect everything, but it's also structured in a way that it shows that we need to do something about it, even if we cannot stop it anymore, because the difference between 2 degrees warmer and 4 or 5, 6 degrees warmer, it's crazy. So for me at least, it felt like we should definitely do something so that we minimize the impact. I know it's a very difficult read for many people, but I think it's a necessary read. So I would encourage all of you to go and pick this book up. I think it's very valuable to know what we are doing with our environment. So yeah. The next one, it's in a similar vein, and it's On Fire by Naomi Klein. Naomi Klein has been one of my favorite authors for a while now. I read her for the first time, I think, when a friend and I went to one of her events, so I wanted to read a bit more about her before the event, and that was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I read some of her earlier works, and yeah, she always has this very conversational but very to the point style on what she says. I have to say that some of her books are a little bit dated, not in the sense of the information she presents is not true anymore, but more in the sense of she does refer to current political events. And I think that's fine, that the fact that they are sort of dated. Like, for example, in On Fire, which came out, I think, at the end of last year, she talks a lot about Trump. So, of course, if we read that 10 years from now, maybe we cannot relate as much, because we forgot, hopefully, a lot of what Trump did and what Trump said. But for the moment, it feels especially important to read it, because it's so relatable. So in this particular book, On Fire, she talks about the climate crisis and how it is related to capitalism and the current political system, and why it is so difficult to do anything about it with the current system. And the parallels that she draws on that topic are amazing, and I think that everyone should read this again as on an uninhabitable Earth. I think that this book really goes deep into the issue and how we can fix it, and how how it's not like, oh, we should just put solar panels and that's fine. She goes deeper than that. She goes deeper into what is causing that barrier that we cannot pass at the moment, and why also it's important to not only consider climate change as a isolated unity that we have to solve, but it's connected to every other problem, and it's connected in a way that makes it most important to fix everything at the same time, because otherwise problems are going to pop up again. So yeah, I think that her points are really well discussed and really well drawn, and I would recommend people to read this for sure. Yeah. Now a little bit of a change. I wanted to talk about a book that I actually read for the BookTube Prize, so I'm thankful for the BookTube Prize to make me read this, and that's Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. And this is about the troubles in Ireland in the 80s, I think, 80s, 70s and 80s. So this is centered around the murder of this woman that was involved in one of the parties in Northern Ireland. But it's sold sometimes as a true crime book. I don't think that's accurate because the focus of this book is mainly on what happened afterwards to the people involved, more than, the gruesome details of how they kill her or something. It's more about what effect did that have in Ireland as a country, and the IRA and these different organizations that were involved in the conflict, and the people themselves that were involved in the conflict that then went to jail, and how they reacted to that, and how they fought for their ideals in the two different sides. It doesn't take sides, which is something I really liked, but it does all that discussion of the troubles quite deeply, but at the same time, because it's centered around this murder, it sometimes feels a bit like a thriller, so it's easy to read as well, but not in a gruesome way. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I felt. Like I'm really queasy with gruesome stuff, and this didn't touch upon any of that at all. So I appreciated that, and the deeper discussions about Ireland, while at the same time it was completely readable. Like, this is 400 pages, and I read it in like 1 or 2 days. So yeah, I really recommend this. I think it's a bit of a different book than what I have ever read before, but it was really compelling, and I came out thinking that I did understand those troubles a little bit better. So yeah, I would really recommend. The next one I want to talk about is The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. So before this I had read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, and I thought it was okay, but at the end of the day that book is like a romance. It's a love story, and for me it just didn't feel compelling enough. But The Fire Next Time is a non-fiction about James Baldwin's experience with race and with religion, and how the two of them interact, and I thought that was much better done, and much more compelling, at least for me, and kind of things that I would like to read. James Baldwin was an incredibly smart person, and he had a really interesting ideas, and he presented it also in a way that was not shaming anybody, because he himself explains how at the beginning he was raised as a Christian, and he was really into that, and then he saw the Muslims like Malcolm X getting into the struggle, and how he wanted to go that way, but at the end of the day this religion for him always brought this sense of judgment that he didn't agree with, and he moved a little bit away from that, and that struggle that he went through and the way that he talked about it, I think it was really powerful, because I think that we all go into our personal journeys to arrive to who we are and what we care about, and we often only see the end product, and I thought that it was really powerful that he showed his whole struggle and how he at the end came to these very basic ideas of, Black people should just be treated like normal people because they are, and that kind of thing. And I really, really love that book, and I'm looking forward to read more James Baldwin next year. I think I prefer his non-fiction, so I think I'll go with that. And a bit also tied with that, I wanted to talk about Superior by Angela Saini. I had read previously Inferior by Angela Saini, which is about how stupid it is that people think that there is a scientific basis to the difference between men and women and the stereotypes that go with that. And this is a similar thing with race. So she talks about how science has been trying to prove for hundreds of years that Black people or like non-white people are inferior to white people, how they fail every time and they still try to do it despite everything, and how many things that affects that idea that we have ingrained when we are born, that white people are superior, how it's ingrained on everything, and how socially damaging that is despite not having absolutely any scientific basis, like to the point, because we mostly think that we are not racist, right? Because we don't think that Black people are less smart or whatever. But it goes even to things like, I still had that idea that Black people were more susceptible to some certain diseases like cardiovascular diseases. And the book shows that it's not true. It's completely not true. That's because Black people in Western countries tend to be poorer, and when they're poorer they eat worse, and that makes them more susceptible to cardiovascular diseases. It's not that their body and their genes are more designed for that. So yeah, I think that book was amazing, and also Angela Saini has a way to tell it that it's not difficult to understand and it's not difficult to follow. So yeah, I think that was a great book that everyone again should read, both of them, Inferior and Superior. Yeah, and I'm looking forward what she brings up in the future. And then the last one I have is another one that I read for the Booktube Prize, and that is In the Dreamhouse by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir of Carmen Maria Machado and her experience as a queer person that had an abusive relationship with another woman. And I know that in the Booktube Prize not many people like this book because it's very innovative and told in a completely different way that we expect non-fiction to be. So it's told in this kind of vignettes. It's like 1 or 2 pages each, and it's like in the dreamhouse as a gothic novel, the dreamhouse as a choose your own adventure, the dreamhouse as cheesy romance or whatever. Like she picks genres, and she builds the story with vignettes based on each genre, so each vignette is told in a different style, and I thought that was so smart and it works so well for me, and it's completely out there. Like I never thought about that, and I never thought about how someone could tell that story in that way. So I really like that book. I think it was amazing. I think also that it's important to have the representation that book gave, but just the form that it was it was told in, I thought it was really, really interesting. And I think that also if you are scared of nonfiction, this one is probably a very good way to start, just because it's basically written like a fiction story. And yeah, I think it worked really well. So yeah, those were all the books I wanted to talk about in this video. There are 6 of them for no particular reason, just I went through the things I read this year, and yeah, those are just my favorite books and happen to be 6. But yeah, let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought of them. If you're going to plan to pick it up, any of these up the next year. And until next video, bye!